Good day everyone and welcome to the webinar on Candy's link and forecast application. So this is an application where Candy allows you to link the bill of quantities to a planning program to produce various forecast scenarios. My name is Marjorie Subramani. I am a technical consultant here at the CCS office in Centurion. It is a city in the Gauteng province of South Africa. It is my pleasure to present this webinar to you. Due to the large number of people logged into the webinar, we will not be able to answer any questions. However, please do submit your questions during the session with the provided function on screen. At the end of the webinar, we will then collate these questions and send the answers to everybody that have registered for the webinar via email. Also note that this webinar will be recorded and you will receive a link to download it. There is a webinar once a month where we cover various Candy topics. Should you not be able to attend the webinar at the given time frame, then please still go ahead and register for it, as this will entitle you to receive a recorded copy. Okay, so let's get started. On the agenda today, we have the link and forecast introduction, the 3 methods of linking the bill of quantities to the planning program, estimating checks, how to import bill items to create program activities, the manual link between the bill of quantities and an existing program. We will then view on-screen forecast documents, and I will end this webinar by looking at a few key forecast reports. Alright, so first on the agenda we have the link and forecast introduction. So for those of you who have attended Candy courses, should be familiar with the complete project control slide. I will not be running through the entire slide, but what I would like to mention is that when starting the integration process, items from the Candy bill of quantities can be allocated to activities in the Candy program, and this will then allow you to create a tender budget forecast, because you have money in the one bucket, time in the other bucket, and by linking the two, you basically have your money spread over time. So this process also allows you to view various forecast scenarios, such as an accurate budget for the project, individual resource forecast, as well as resource histogram, but based on your estimating resources. And this is just to name a few. What's also nice is that by having the link between the bill and the program, a dynamic link is established. So what that means is that any changes made to either the bill of quantities or the program will affect your forecast. Okay, so that is it for the link and forecast introduction. Next, we are going to look at the 3 methods of linking the bill of quantities to the planning program. Okay, so as I have mentioned, there are 3 methods of linking the bill of quantities to the program. So the first method is where we have a bill of quantities, and then we would use the bill items to create planning activities from the estimate. So this process automatically links the bill items to activities, and although it is quick and fairly accurate, it is not the best method to use. So the reason why we're saying this is because your bill of quantities should not tell you how to do your work, because it is simply an indication of how the work is to be done. Sorry, it is not an indication of how the work is to be done, but rather a measurement of the work. Then you have the second option. So the second option is where you have a bill of quantities and an existing program. So what you would have to do here is to manually link your bill to the program, and it is time consuming. However, this is the most accurate method to use when it comes to your forecast scenarios. The third and final method is where you would price the program and then generate a bill of quantities from the price program. So it's similar to item 1, it's just that this method is hardly used, but it is ideal for design and build scenarios. So in today's webinar, I will be demonstrating the first two methods. So the one is where we create our planning activities using our bill items. And then the second method is where we then manually link the bill of quantities to an existing program. Okay, so that is it for our various methods. Next, we have the estimating checks. So we are saying that before you can link the bill to the program, you just need to make sure that the bill of quantities is indeed ready to be integrated. Okay, so the checks we will be running, or that needs to be run, is to check if you have plug or split rates, to see if you have selling rates in place, and then lastly, to make sure you have final quantities. But why is it important to do these checks? So when it comes to the plug-in split rates, we're not saying that it will prevent you to do a budget forecast, because whether you price your bill of quantities with plug rates or split rates, or based on the first principle pricing method, it will still generate financial information. So that means that yes, you have used plug-in split rates, you will still be able to forecast your amounts and so forth. All right. The only issue with this is that by having your plug-in split rates, you won't be able to produce a resource usage forecast. So in this case, like what we see on screen, we have our bill of quantities. And if I had made use of the first principle pricing methods, where I would price each and every bill item using resources, I am then able to forecast these resource usages. Okay, so next we have the zero selling rates again. I'm not saying that it will prevent you from integrating, it will just limit the integration process. So by not having selling rates in place means that you won't be able to produce a client budget forecast. That simply means forecasting your selling amounts over time. All right, and then lastly, we have the final quantities. So the final quantities are your remeasured quantities, and you are able to focus on the bulk quantities. It's just that when there is an increase in the final quantities, it is important to then just spread this across your relevant activities to make sure that an accurate spread is done based on the final quantities. Okay, so I won't be doing these checks in Candy because I've already done it all. I have priced my bill of quantities using resources. I have selling rates in place as well as final quantities. Okay, so that brings us to the next step where we're going to take our bill items to create our program activities. So I'm going to switch over to Candy now. And just to show you, I have selected the vent shaft and substation contract. In estimating, there is my bill of quantities. I have a total allowable of 33.1 million. So the next step for us is then to go to our planning application and then to create a program. So currently I have two existing programs, a linked one and one where we will have to do the manual link. So for now, I'm just going to create a new program and call this construction program, and this is from our estimate. My start date is the 6th of January 2020. My week will start on a Monday. You have the options to obviously start it on a Saturday or Sunday as well. And then my working days will be 5 days per week. So now I have created my estimate program and I will then just select it. Once I open up my bar chart, you can see that I do not have any information. So if you would like to import your bill items from estimating to create the activities, the first step you will have to do is go to the estimate menu option. Once I click on it, it gives me an opportunity to import my estimate bill. Alright, but before you can import your estimate bill, you need to make a decision first. How would you like to import your bill items? So these are your three options. Do you want to make the activities or the bill items at a section heading above the bill item and activity, at a section level 3 or 2 or 1, whatever the case may be, or for every bill item? I'm just going to switch back to my presentation to show you guys what is meant by those three options. So the first option is at a section heading above bill items. So what does that mean? If I have my bill items, clear site, excavate, and so forth, the heading above the bill item will then become an activity. So in this case, we have earthworks. Because earthworks is the first heading above my bill item, therefore it became a activity. The next one, we have our concrete items, but above concrete or above my concrete items, I have the heading concrete and so forth. So it will take all the headings above your bill items and it will create activities using those. So the section option is where you make use of the section levels. So in this case, I have selected a section level 1, or sorry, section level 2. That means it's my heading level 2. So everywhere where I have a 2 in my level number, in this case it is section 2 vent shaft, it will then create an activity for that heading. So now you can see you have section 2, section 3, section 2, the addendum, and those have been made activities. And then the last option is to take each and every bill item and make those activities. So this is pretty straightforward. Clear and strip site is a bill item, sorry. And when you go to your program, you can see that clear and strip site is also an activity. So whatever is on your bill will then be carried across to your program. Okay, so I'm going to switch back to Candy, and then I'm going to select the option at a section heading above bill items. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate two of these three options. We're going to have the first one, which is at a section heading above the bill items, as well as for every bill item. And I will explain that shortly. Okay, so 32 headings and activities have been imported successfully. So all I need to do is click on OK. So here are this is my type column, my activity numbers, which are auto-generated, my activity description, as well as my duration. So because I've stated that I'm going to work 5 days a week, my duration defaults to 5. So that doesn't mean the system automatically knows how long it's going to take you to do or to carry out the earthworks work, for instance. So you are still responsible to come to the duration, calculate the duration, or type it in based on historic information. So as I've said, you can type it in. If I know that it's going to take me 20 days to carry out my foundation earthworks or fan foundation earthworks, I can simply type in the number 20. Alternatively, if I know what my quantities are, I can also calculate it. So if I have 10,000 squares, for instance, and I'm going to do 1,000 square a day, it will give me a result of 10. I can then choose the option to store this. So that means that it's a calculated duration based on information that I have received. So I'm just going to change this back to 20 and then overwrite my calc sheet. Alright, so now you have your headings, you have the activities, duration, as well as your bars. So also take note that there are no links. So again, it's your responsibility to make sure that you link the activity based on how the work will be carried out. Alright, so you can go ahead and say earthworks will be followed by rebar, rebar will be followed by formwork, and then formwork will be followed by concrete. Once you hit calculate, there you have your relationships. So this is how you can do it, or a quicker way is by selecting all your activities, right clicking in the area, and then link it into start. Alright, so as I've said, you are still responsible to come here and make sure that you give it the correct durations. So I'm just going to size this to the bottom half of the screen, switch over to link and forecast, and then go to the link document. So this is what we mean when we say that there is a dynamic link. So I have changed this duration from 5 days to 20 days, and you can see that the change has already been made on my link document. When I decrease it to 10 days over at the calc sheet, yes, it then shortens it accordingly. Okay. So how this document works is that, so you have two options. You can either make use of document 3.1, which is my bill of quantities with the activity allocations, or if I go to my blue book, you also have document 3.2, which is the activities with the BOQ allocations. So to explain the two, let me just hold this one open. Here we have the bill of quantities, and then you can drag items or activities from your planning program onto document 3.1. And if I just open up document 3.2, this is the opposite. So now you have your activity numbers and so forth. And then what you can do here is open your bill in the bottom and then drag bill items onto your document 3.2. So I prefer, let me just delete this. I prefer to work on document 3.1 where I drag my activities onto the BOQ with activity allocations document. All right. So what I would like to bring to your attention is the following. You have your bill of quantities, you have your final quantities, and then you have the total quantity over and under allocations. I will come back to that. But what is important here is the activity number. So when we created this activity, we created the first option where we said import every bill item or at a section heading above the bill item. So Earthworks was then made an activity. But because Earthworks is a heading on the bill of quantities, it means A030 is linked to each and every bill items under Earthworks. Okay, so now you must be very careful. So what this means is that if my Earthworks duration is 10 days, that means the quantity or amount will be spread over 10 days for each and every bill item under Earthworks. So that means clear and strip site will be spread over that duration, excavate bulk will be spread, and so forth. Whereas it doesn't actually work like that. To clear and strip your site will take you, let's say, 2 days. So this is where the start percentage offset and the end percentage offset comes in play. So this then tells you for this entire duration, when will this activity actually take place? And then it will spread the amount or quantity or whatever the case may be over that specific area. So if I say my Earthworks is going to start at the start of this activity, which means at 0% up to 20% of my total duration, this 10,800 squares will be spread over this yellow bar. We call the yellow bar a spread bar. So it means from 0 to 20%, if I just go onto the bar, it's 1, 2, so it's 2 days. That means the 10,000 will be spread accordingly. Alright, then you have the next one where you have the excavate bulk. So you need to clear your site first, so that means from 20% to, let's say, 60%. Will the excavation activities happen? And then you can just do the rest accordingly. Okay, so this is the one thing that you will have to note when it comes to using the headings as an activity, because anything or each and every bill item that falls underneath that heading will then be linked to that specific activity. Okay, so I'm just going to size this document to the bottom half now and open up my forecast document. and size that to the top half. So they are all, we're not going to look at earthworks, concrete just yet. So here are my earthworks information. So if I just switch back to my program and I increase this duration by, I don't know, another 10 or 25 days, just so that it runs over February. Once I put my cursor there, the spread will be done accordingly. But because I said clear and strip site will only happen from the start of the activity up to 20% of my total activity duration, that amount is spread only in January. So if I open up my link document again, there is it. So it still falls in January. And then the excavate bulk is in January, and then some of it in February, as you can see here. Alright, so that is how the start percentage and end percentage columns would work. And it's very important to take note of it. Okay, so I'm going to open up my link document again, and then we can talk about the total quantity under and over allocation. So a lot of times we get calls from clients and they say that I have linked all my activities to my bill of quantities, but my spread is incorrect. So I know it's not going to make sense, or let's do something that will make sense. Okay, no. So I'm going to take activity A050 and just as an example, explain why your spread won't be correct. So if I take this activity and I link it to bill item number 1, nothing will be spread on my concrete works, because if you look at the allocated quantity column, this entire 10,800 has been allocated to activity A050. So what does that mean? If I open up my forecast document, see, it's still just the 88,700 that's been allocated to activity A, or item number A. So what you have to do here is you need to then do a proportional spread. So you can either say that 1,000, you're going to allocate 1,000 to activity A030, then the system will tell you you have 9,800 squares that still needs to be allocated to an activity. This is where the over or under comes. So in this case, we are 9,800 under. So then all you need to do is allocate that 9,800 accordingly. Alternatively, what you can also do is you can just right click in the quantity column alongside your bill item and do a proportional spread. You can also then overwrite, or it will automatically overwrite the allocation, and then based on how you have done your links on the program, it will spread the quantities accordingly. Okay, and then this is how the allocated quantity column work, as well as my total quantity over and under. But what's important here, again, let me just mention, is that when you do make use of the headings, it is important, very important, for you to set the start percentage offset as well as the end percentage offset. And if you link, this is a one-to-many, we call it one-to-many, which means it's one item but multiple activities. It is then also important for you to make sure that you spread your quantities accordingly. Okay, so that is the one example. So the next example I would like to show you guys is, I'm just going to go back to planning and create a new one. Call it construction program again. E2 for estimate 2. And here, what I will do is I will then import each and every bill item. So here is my blank bar chart. I will go to estimate, import bill items, import for every bill item. And here we have it. So in the first example, we only had earthworks and this was an activity, whereas now we have my entire bill items imported. So what's nice about having your entire bill items imported, you can simply right click and link it in to start. Again, still you are still responsible for the durations, you are still responsible for the links or logic, but when you go to link and forecast and you have a look at your allocated quantities or the start and end offsets, you do not have to worry much about the start percentage offset as well as the end percentage offset, because here you will then tell the system that clear site will take me 4 days, excavate in bulk will take me 10 days, and then the spread will be according to your duration on your program. Okay. If you would like to undo a link or clear a link, all you need to do is you need to backspace it. Alternatively, if I right click on the activity number in the activity number column, I can just say clear activity allocations. Then it's going to ask you clear activity numbers allocated to the selected BOQ item. All you need to do is say yes. So now because we have not allocated anything to item B and item A, it tells me that I have an under allocation of 10,800 as well as 21,600. So all I need to do is come back here and type in my activity of A040 and then A050 here, and you can see that these quantities disappeared because now my allocated quantity is as per my final quantities. Okay, so talking about the final quantity, what happens if there is an increase in the final quantity? But before we do that, what I will do is I would like to add in my bill quantity column. Okay, so when I copied across my final quantities, I copied it from the bill quantity because at the given time, the bill quantities was my best quantities to use. But as time went on, there was an increase in my final quantity. So what happens then? So I will open up my bill of quantities and I will increase this to 12,000. So my bill quantity is 10,800. This is contractual. And now we have remeasured this item and my final quantity is 12,000 squares. So once I click anywhere on this document to make it active, it will tell me that I have an under allocation of 1,200. So this is very important. Whenever there is a change in your final quantities, you need to come back to this document 3.1, BOQ with activity allocations, or 3.2, whichever one you use, and then you need to respread the allocated quantity. So all you need to do is you can right click and just overwrite the existing, or you can just come and type 12,000 over the 10,800. So all I need to do is right click and say proportional spread, overwrite allocation, and there I have my 12,000 in place. Okay, so that was just something to note. Okay, so now that we have imported bill items to create our program activities, next on the agenda we have the manual link between the bill of quantities and an existing program. Okay, so I'm going to clear everything on my screen. Go to the planning application and select my construction program manual link program. There it tells me I am in the manual link program. So if I open up my bar chart, here you can see I have my activities. I have my timelines showing nicely, indicating when my handover dates are. So I'm confident that this program is fully linked, so I don't have to make checks or do checks. But if you had received this from someone else, it is important to just run a check to see that it's fully linked by going to View, Filter, and these are your various filter. So what you would want to do is do a program debug, have a look for activities that have open starts or ends. And if you click on this little question mark, it will tell you, will highlight activities with no predecessor start links and or no successor end links. So that is a filter you can run, and yeah, there's a bunch of other filters as well. Okay, so how do I go about linking an existing program to the bill? All you need to do is size this to the bottom half of your screen, go to the link and forecast application, click on the link document. So as I've mentioned, you can use either document 3.1 or 3.2. I prefer working on 3.1. So here we have it. So my site establishment, I will just ignore that. And then these are the various ways of linking the bill or the program to the bill. So you can select an activity by going to the record row selector. Hold your left click in and then drop it onto the relevant bill item. So take note that my cursor is green and it says that it is a valid drop position. But because my cursor is on item D, excavate for working space, it means it will link activity A060, which is clear site, to activity or item D, excavate for working space. So it's also very important that if you use the drag and drop option, to make sure that you are on the correct bill item when you do the drop. Okay, so now I am on A. Take note that I don't have to be in the activity number column. I can simply sit on this activity, point to it, or not the activity, sorry, the item, point to it, and then release it. So now you can see that activity A060 is linked to bill item A, and I have a total final quantity of 12,000. Alright, then we have excavate in bulk. Again, you can hold your left click in by going to the record row selector, selecting that entire line, dragging and dropping, or you can simply go under the activity number column and type in there A070. Alright, then the next one is A060. I can also just drag and drop it onto item C. What you can also do is you can select a range by holding your shift key in. So I'm selecting A080 from the record row selector, holding my shift key in, selecting A100. In the blue area, hold my left click in, dragging and dropping it onto item D, and there you have one bill item linked to activity A080, A090, and A100. But what's missing here is that we do not have allocated quantity for each of these activities. So all I need to do is simply right click and do a proportional spread. So because these activities all have the same durations, which is 20, 20, 20, it has taken 13,020 and spread it evenly across those activities. If I am to increase activity 100, A100 to let's say 30, I would come here, redo my proportional spread, and activity A100 will get the bulk of the 1,320 squares. Alright. Let's say now you have linked multiple things. I'm just going to go crazy here. Or maybe you are inheriting something, or inheriting a program and a bill from someone else, and you don't understand what their thinking was behind the links. So instead of, and you would like to get rid of those links, the link basically between the bill and the program, instead of now going and backspacing each and every one, or right clicking and clearing activity allocations, all you need to do is in the activity number column header, right click and then say clear activity allocations, and it will clear it from the entire bill of quantities. Then you can obviously just come and then do the links as you see fit. Okay. Another thing I would like to mention is, let's say now I have done my links and my program is fully linked. What happens if you add an additional activity? So I'm going to close this document quickly. Take my construction program linked, make a copy of it, and then use the copy. So these are my activities. So if I go ahead and let me just go to the planning program and open up the normal bar chart. Let's say this is additional site clearance. Okay, so it's additional site clearance. It took you 10 days to do, and it comes from activity A380. There we have it. And then you would link this obviously back to the handover section. Okay, so you've added your additional site clearance activity in the bill. You received a VO to do it. Okay, so I'm not going to go through valuations and add a VO because we also have that function. You can define VOs on the blue hammer under valuations, and then use the the variation order document to create those variations. So I'm just going to say additional clearance. This is just as an example. It is in squares, and my final quantity is 1,000 squares. Okay, and we have priced it using one of this. Okay, this is going to take long, so let me just double click in here and look for site clearance. There we have it. Replace that code. There we have. Okay, so now we have priced this additional site clearance item. Obviously it won't be K, it will be VO number 1 and so forth. So what happens now on my link document? So if I scroll all the way down, see there I have my additional site clearance, bill quantity 0, my final quantity is 1,000 squares. I have an under allocation of 1,000. So when we talk about the dynamic link, it's more about the durations in your or on your program and the rate changes on the bill, or even if you change the description, for instance. But the minute you add an additional item or add an additional activity, you have to still come and then manually link it to the relevant activity or bill item. Okay, so that is how you would handle variation orders, or whatever the case may be. Whatever you add additional to the program that's already been linked to the bill, you'll have to go and manually add it to the relevant bill item or to the relevant activity, whatever the case may be. Alright, so that is it for linking additional items to an existing bill of quantities and a program that has been linked. Okay, so now I'm just going to select my construction program, fully linked. So I have a program that is already linked. There's the additional 1,200, so all I'm going to do is just do the spread. So now if I want to run a filter to make sure that it is indeed fully linked, all I need to do is in the total quantity over and under allocations, I will simply right click in the total quantity over and under, go to filter over and under allocations, and it will tell me that filter toolbar 1 was found, and this is the example I had made. So all I need to do is delete that activity or bill item, sorry. So now you know it is one bill, so whatever changes you make on that one bill, it affects your forecast documents. So I'm just going to run this filter again, and now I can see that no items have been found to match this filter. Okay, so now that we have a bill and a program that has been fully linked, we can then move on to the next item on the agenda, and that is to have a look at on-screen budget forecast documents. So what I have done is I've deleted all the documents I do not need and only kept the ones that I will be working with today. But if you need any additional documents, if you go to new documents, under bills you have the standard bill of quantities, under number 2 you have the standard bar chart activity list, and these are all your standard documents that you can obviously customize to suit the project specifications. Okay, so the first one we're going to look at is document 4.1, which is my BOQ with the budget forecast. So I have my bill quantity, my allocated quantities, bill and final quantities, unit of measure, and then my program net amounts. Once I hit calculate, what I have here is that I have a forecast that is based on my net amounts. So this basically reflects your internal budget forecast. What I would like to bring to your attention in this is if I size this or roll it up to my highest level, which is a level 1, you can see that my forecast or financial periods are at the end of each month. So this is also very important. So if your month ends on the 25th of each month, you'll have to adjust this accordingly because it will affect your monthly forecasts. To change that, all you need to do is go to the blue hammer, go to number 2.2, which is the financial periods. Currently, it is in last working day of the month. You have the option to use the last calendar day of the month, the fixed date, fixed day of the week, and so forth. So I'm going to select the option to have it at a fixed date and on the 25th of each month. So just to show you, currently the 28th of February, I have a total allowable of 49,200. So once I click OK, hit calculate, force a recalculation, you can see that that 49,000 changed to 34,000, which is a huge difference. Okay, so it's important to have your financial period set accordingly. So now you can see that you have a total allowable for each and every month on the 25th of each and every month. So February we have 34,000, 25th of March we have 1.9 million. So these are your allowables, your monthly allowables for your project. That means ideally you should not have spent more than 34,000 in February. Alright, so that is it for my BOQ with the budget forecast based on my net amounts. Then I've taken the same document, which is 4.1, and I've renamed it to 4.1a, and this is my BOQ with the quantity forecast. So instead of my net values, I am forecasting the quantities for each and every bill item. So if I go to view, add and remove columns, column number 10.1, if I go to 10.1, it is my program forecast, so choose one. So the first one we had a look at was 10.2. So you can choose any of these to forecast. Okay, so I've chosen 10.1, which is my quantities. So now I have my clear and strip site, 12,000 squares, and you can see the spread accordingly. So I know for February I need to clear 4,200, and the remaining 7,800 I need to clear in March. And this spread is obviously as per my program. So I start in February and then I finish in March. Okay. Then we have document 4.3, which is the BOQ with the resource usage forecast. You are only allowed to view this document if you had priced your bill of quantities based on the first principle pricing method. So if you do not have resources in your bill, then you will not be able to price this. So here we have our bill of quantities, and then you have the resources per bill item. You have the total usages, and then what is the usage for each of those resources per bill item. You can also change the depth. That means you can analyze it to a simple resource or leave it at a complex. So if you want to change it, you simply right click in the resource description column, go to column properties, and then complex analyze to simple resources, and there you have your simple resources. So for clear site, for my laborer, I have a total usage of 24 days, and these are my spreads accordingly. Okay, what's nice about this is that for items that makes use of materials, you can then see exactly when do I need to have this material on site and how much of it. Okay, so that is it for the BOQ with the resource usage forecast. If you have cost codes in place, so your cost codes are used to summarize your resources, then you are able to view document 5.2, which is also a standard document. These are my various cost codes, 100, 200, and basically it is, the cost code should be the same as your accounting costs or accounting codes, ledger codes. Alright, so once I hit calculate, you can see your various allowables for instance, code 201, general labor. These are your various allowables for the various codes. Okay. Then we have 5.1, which is my resource forecast. So the first one we looked at, or not the first one, document 4.3 is my BOQ with the resource usage forecast. So document 5.1 is just my resource list with the usages and then the forecast for each and every resource. So for my laborer, I have a total usage of 15,000 man days, and here you can see the spread of each of those usages for the various months. If I go to my permanent materials, let's have a look at ready mix concrete. I have a total usage allowable of 2,175. The first time I'm going to need 30 MPa concrete on site will be on the 30th of April. So this again is on the last day of the month. So I'm going to need 30th of April, 842 cubes of concrete on site. And then the last document is document 4.2, which is the program with my forecast. So here you have your activity list. What is the remaining net amount? And then you have the spread for each and every activity. So what you can also do is if you would like to print these documents, instead of going to the report manager, you can also make use of the document printer. And what this does is it prints what it sees on screen. So the only changes you can make is the formatting, the layout, printer styles, header, and footer. So you cannot add additional columns or anything like that. It just prints what it sees on screen. Okay, so that brings me to the end of the on-screen documents. And the last point on our agenda is my forecast reports. So to go to the reports, I just need to go to the report manager under link and forecast, and these are the reports we will be viewing. So the bill of quantities with budget forecast, we had a look at the document. So I will just quickly preview this. Pretty straightforward. You have your bill of quantities. What is the final quantity? What is the net amount? And then you have the various spread accordingly. Alright, so this is based on my net values, as you can see there. So I'm not going to spend time on this, but what I want to show you is the next one, which is my client budget forecast. So all I did here is I took the BOQ with budget forecast, I duplicated it and renamed it to the client budget forecast, customized it, and then I went to the column properties and I added my final selling amount as well as forecast my selling amount. So when I preview this document, I've also summarized it to a level 2. So I have my contract name, which is Venshaft and Substation. My total selling amount amounts to 37 million. And you can see the breakup of that amount between section 2, section 3, and section 2 addendum accordingly. So this is nice because this reflects what the client must budget for. So you can then submit this document to the client for them to obviously sort out their cash flow for the entire project. Okay, we also had the BOQ with with resource usage forecast. Sorry about that. And as you can see, I have analyzed it to a simple resource, final quantities, and you can see the spread accordingly. What I would like to show you here is how you would do it to analyze it analyze it according to the different depths. All you need to do is customize, go to customize, and then go to the column properties. And here, depth of resource analysis, these are your options. Okay, so this is where you would do it on the document. And then it will obviously analyze it according to what you have selected. Okay. And then we have the estimate resource forecast. This is based on my resource types. So there are my various resource types, labor, plant, and material. I have generated my various allowable for each resource type, and then you can see the spreads accordingly, and then it just gives you a tally of what your total allowable is for each and every month. Okay, so those are my forecasting reports. Then you have your histogram reports. So the first one is your estimate linked histogram. This is based on my net S-curve. So if I preview this, my net amounts to 33.1 million. These are my various resource types and then you can see the total for each of the resource types, and at max what it would be, the maximum amount on a specific day, what that amount would be. So this report basically just represents the contractor's forecast expenditure over time. The next one, instead of my net values, I've selected my S-curve. So then this is the client's expenditure over time. Or not the client's expenditure, but what they would have to pay the contractor over time. Okay, then we have the estimate resource forecast inverted. So this report just represents the contractor's forecast numerically over time. So here you have your month end, 25th of February, March, and so forth, and then you have your total net amounts for each and every month. And then lastly, I have the resource histogram, critical resources. So how do you decide a resource is critical? So what I did here is, let me just show you. I printed my resource percentage report. Let me just customize it. I've selected the resource type, simple resources only, based on my final quantity. And then what this does is it lists your resources per resource type from the highest value to the lowest value. So I went to materials and I have selected the first three material, which is my steel, ready-mix concrete, and cement. These are the amounts. It amounts to 2.5 million, 2.5 million, and 2.3 million. It contributes to 15% of my entire material type and 7.8% of my entire contract value. So I've selected these activity and marked it as critical activities. So if I go to the resource reports again, I just want to show you. Yeah, I have selected it. Under estimate links, my resources below, and it's just a graphical representation of what my total values are for each and every resource. Okay, it's also important to know exactly when you start with these resources so that you have the relevant subcontractor or workers on site, or even the material on site, so that you not only start on time, but it doesn't cost you more money. By having it delayed, the subcontractor will obviously charge you money if it is delayed, and so forth. Okay guys, so that brings me to the end of this webinar. So just to recap on what we did, we had a look at the link and forecast introduction. We had a look at the three methods of linking the bill of quantities to the planning program, the estimating checks. We imported the bill items to create program activities. I showed you how to manually link an existing bill of quantities to an existing program. We had a look at on-screen budget forecasts documents, as well as forecast reports. Thank you so much for your time, and I trust that you now have greater insight into Candy's link and forecast application. Just note that some of the reports that I have previewed, I had to customize, and if you do need any of those reports, you can just call your local CCS office and they will be able to assist you. We will keep you informed of the next webinar, and remember, if you are unable to join on the selected time, please still register, as you will receive a recorded copy which you can then obviously watch at your own time. Enjoy the rest of your day. Until the next webinar, goodbye for now.